Hey, my name's James Nicholson. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we need to talk about the Conservatives and their plan to abolish stamp duty. You see, they just had their conference this week, and one of the big promises they had is that they will abolish stamp duty on your primary residence. The argument for this is the fact that the property market has slowed down significantly, and they feel that getting rid of stamp duty would get that market moving. In fact, I agree with that. In this video, I want to talk about what their proposals are. What would this mean for the buy-to-let sector? Is this suddenly going to give them a shot in the arm that they need to get that market moving as well? Now, if you're new around here and you haven't done already, do make sure you subscribe to the channel over there and hit that bell notification. We're a smidge away. Have a look around this video, a smidge away from 50,000 subscribers. And by subscribing, you'll get all the latest house price news, property investing tips, and much, much more. And let's get some views on this video. Your part's simple. All you need to do is smash like, tickle like, do something to that like button. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and that really does help the channel grow. So thanks to everyone that does that. So, the Tory leader, Kemi, was speaking this week. And it's interesting because when the Conservatives were in power, they did have that stamp duty reduction. And that did move the market, especially early this year. If you think back to January, February, and March, the property market was booming back then. In January, February, and March, we had 500,000 transactions done because we were aware that Labour were going to not extend that reduction in stamp duty. And on April the 1st, stamp duty rose significantly for a lot of people. And so what that meant is that now the property market is really slow at the moment. And so we're going into next month with a budget that a lot of people are expecting to be very painful for everybody. Taxes are looking at increasing, and all sorts of things are on the table with regards to stamp duty. So Labour, on their part, are saying, well, we might also get rid of stamp duty. Their proposal, one of them, is that houses above 500 grand, you wouldn't have stamp duty then. You'd get something called a property tax, which would be lower, but it would be on an annual basis. You'd also remove council tax in that scenario. And then that would mean every year you would pay a property tax. Now that sounds good because up front you don't have this massive, great big bill that you do currently. But the problem is it hits people really hard, property tax, when they retire because the tax stays the same. Your income drops significantly when you retire, and then you still got to pay this stuff. And we can see what happens in America. In America, this hits people really hard. Property taxes are not popular over there, and that's what we're looking to do over here. Now, the other option that the Labour Party are looking at is just getting rid of the lump sum up front and allowing you to pay in instalments. Now, I think that would be more popular, and I think that would bring some people back into the market. There's people that watch this channel that have said, I'd like to pay my stamp duty in instalments if I could. And that could be over 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. They haven't given more details out on that. They're just testing ideas here. So what the Tories are saying is we would abolish stamp duty in full on all properties that it's your primary residence. So that's the house that you live in. And that would mean that lots of people could downsize, and that would be a positive thing. You see, what's happening at the moment is the market is struggling. Houses above 500 grand are in this weird limbo where people are just saying, well, I want to see what happens in the budget. So they're not selling. There's not lots of listings at the moment. There's not lots of buyer inquiries at the moment. And when you go above 1 million, it's even worse. That part of the market is very slow. The lower end of the market, anything around the 200 grand mark, is busy. That's keeping the transactions going. In fact, that's the bulk of the transactions at the moment. And that's the only thing that's got something happening in the property market. And so it's strange to see what could happen here. But the primary residence, you wouldn't pay stamp duty. And that does sound like a good idea to me. Now, as a buy-to-let investor, the Tories are saying you wouldn't be eligible for this. So second homes, and also investment properties, you would still have to pay stamp duty. Now, I don't know if they would bring that down to what it was before the budget that we just had, or if it would stay really high as it is currently. But buy-to-let investors still could benefit from this. And I tell you why. What this would impact would be house prices. So what would happen if you took off stamp duty is, I believe that the market would get busy for a short period of time. Initially, there'd be a flood of inquiries, people excited, people saying, wow, I can now afford to buy it. I don't need this huge lump sum on top of my deposit, would get some inquiries through the door. That would definitely pick up the market. But what I do believe would also happen off the back of that is people would say, this house here was 550 grand, and that was our budget when we had stamp duty to pay as well. But now we don't. So if someone else is looking at that property as well, we can bid it up a little bit. Why don't we pay £565,000 to get that property? And I think that this would push house prices up. I think house prices would move in that upward momentum again, because people would have that extra disposable lump sum that they could use towards that purchase. And that, in my opinion, would move the market. Now, it wouldn't carry on like that forever, but initially you would see an influx of transactions and it would get the market going again. Now, that's good because there's lots of businesses that are impacted by the property market. You think of solicitors will be busier. They employ lots of people. You think of builders, moving companies, carpet fitters, window fitters. All of these businesses rely on transactions happening in the property market, and they're not seeing that at the moment. The most likely time you're going to get new windows, new carpets, decorating is when you're leaving a property. Either you're selling it or you're buying a property and moving in. That's when people, on the whole, do those transactions, and that keeps the economy going. So while the government might get less stamp duty income, I think it would create more income from businesses being busier. They would pay VAT, they would pay tax on income, national insurance, and all these things would get the economy going. So I think if the Conservatives got back into power, this would be a good thing. But here's the thing. When you're not in power, it's very easy to promise stuff. We had that from Labour. Labour promised us that they would abolish leasehold in the first 100 days. Has that happened? No, they've been in power nearly a year now. And what we've seen so far is the Leasehold Reform Act got passed just before they came to power, and almost none of that's been implemented. That 100 days was just pie in the sky. It was promises to get elected. And so maybe the Conservatives get back into power with lots of strong promises to be stricter on immigration, to give you all these tax cuts, to not charge business rates to businesses and shops. Again, another policy I think is very good. But does that stuff actually happen when they get into power? It's a very different story when they've got to balance the books. Do you think the Tories will get back in power anytime soon, in the next election, obviously? Or do you think that they're just going to be sitting as a sideline party for quite some time, and maybe Reform have taken their place now? Let me know in the comments below. Do smash like and subscribe. Let's get that 50,000. And if you haven't done, grab Mortgage Secrets, how to get the best mortgage in 2025 and beyond. Thousands of you have grabbed this now. It's in the description. It's in the first comment. And in this ebook, we'll teach you how to find the best broker, when's the best time to start your remortgage or your mortgage to buy a property, and also those off-market lenders. You know, car insurance, you've got Direct Line. Well, there's lots of lenders that are off-market. They're not in the brokers' deals. They're not on the comparison sites. They'll give you a good mortgage rate. You want to check those guys out as well. So it's in the descriptions, in the first comment. Do that, and check out all the other content as well on the channel, including this video right here.